Hello everyone, welcome back to Flawed TMI. Hey, we're back in my favorite location, and it was almost touch and go there yesterday. There was actually a fire here, not necessarily here, but right across the street. And I thank God that firefighters were quite diligent and quick to the task because I mean, for purely selfish reasons, of course. I was sitting back going, oh, please don't let anything happen. But it's such a beautiful location here, such beautiful wildlife. I mean, true enough, we get our friendly neighborhood, airplanes going across. But other than that, it's such a friendly community. You have people that are getting out on their daily routine of walking and talking. And I'm not the only person that apparently see this as an opportunity to take pictures and film. So I thank God that they were able to put the fire out in a speedy fashion. For anyone who sits back and say, you never quite have yourself centered, remember I said, this is raw footage. I am not any type of filmographer whatsoever. I don't know anything. I just know how to push on, off, and keep it pushing. So I apologize if anyone sits back and they're watching it on a larger platform and I may seem to the left. I apologize. That's just how that goes. So anyway, with that being said, let's see what the topic of the day may be. Now, like I told you, hey, if you enjoy this content, by all means, like, subscribe, and put notifications. You know, I'm doing my best to put out daily content. So by all means, support me. Because like I keep saying, it's an investment in me as well as an investment in yourself. You may pick up a little gem or two of something that may put you on a different path. Because I noticed in the little time that I've actually been engaging, I'm feeling a lot more positive in my life. Even when something that quite don't pan out the way that I want it to, I still feel myself in a happy place. So I thank God for you guys who are, listening and supporting me. Thank you from the depths of my soul. Thank you. Okay, so let's sit back and see what is in our handy dandy little flask today. So with that being said, let's sit back. Okay. Oh, wow. Okay. We're on F, forgive, and myself. Ooh. This is a tough one, actually. Well, something, I have some lighthearted ones inside, but I don't know. It just seemed like a lot more of the tough ones are finding their way up to the surface, so maybe I need to get a lot of the heavy subjects off of my soul and spirit in order for me to kind of push forward. So forgive myself. This is definitely a time that with this I need to learn how to forgive myself. Your life is a physical manifestation of the thoughts you are constantly thinking in your head. Basically that's just saying is that every day from as you were a little child, you tell yourself things. May not be the right thing. It was just things that you've heard repeatedly and it become part of your daily dialogue. If you learn differently without you even knowing or being diagnosed with having any form of learning disability, to your family or friends or other people, oh, you're stupid, you're dumb, you learn different. There's always, it starts off as a joke and then it becomes critical. And as we get older, it becomes part of our way of how we describe ourselves. We may sit back and say, oh, talk a little slower, I don't quite follow so quickly, or, come show me, I'm not an audio person. We make so many excuses for ourselves to a point that we sit back and we don't really engage in who we truly are. And I do need to learn to forgive myself. I need to forgive myself for, I'm not saying that I blame, because from previous videos, people who were not there to rescue a little girl that was looking for any form of help and salvation, but I need to forgive myself for making it an excuse for any behaviors that I have now. I need to forgive myself for saying yes to a situation when I know clearly it was not a place I should have been, or it was not an action I should have been doing. I need to learn to forgive myself for using food as a way of coping whenever there was a stressor that I felt that I couldn't handle or I chose not to handle. I just resort back to negative behaviors such as eating, so I have to learn to forgive myself. I need to forgive myself for the type of parenting that I engaged in or lack of engagement. I became such a workaholic that my home life didn't matter. I did the basics, making certain that gas, electricity, food, that type of things were taken care of. But even though I had grown up to, watching the sitcoms of the everyone sit around the table and converse, sadly, I did not follow suit on that. And I have to forgive myself for still feeling a certain type of way as a parent that I wasn't there. I have to learn to forgive myself for, I guess, how I, my son with his autism, I'm finding now that when he and I sit down and we talk, I have a better way of dealing with him. Doctors before used to tell me to give him this pill, give him that pill. And, being in the healthcare profession, I learned to listen to doctors. And I listened to them to a point that now my son is disfigured because one of the medications has formed or made him disfigured. And I have to learn to forgive myself because with the knowledge that I had in that moment, I was doing what I thought was best. It wasn't that I did anything out of malinformation. I did what I thought was best in that moment. And I have to learn to forgive myself because when I look at him, and it does slow down a lot of our going out in public engaging because people do stare. And then as a parent, I sit back and I get into that, okay, I wish a MF would, I wish you would, I wish you would, even though he has his blinders on. He's out to have a good time with his mom. He's not looking at how everyone else is looking at him, even though a few people may make, comments to him. So I have to learn to forgive myself in that moment because I know he's a sponge. He soaks up what I do. So I have to learn to forgive myself. I have to learn to forgive myself for the choices that I've made in just my everyday type of, for my finances. I have to learn to forgive myself. It wasn't that growing up, we weren't taught how to sit back and how to, work our finances. Okay, this bill has to be paid at this time, not to just pay the bare minimum, because if you pay the bare minimum, what's going to happen is you're going to constantly stay in distress. I was never taught that. So I have to forgive myself for seeing the dire straits that I'm in right now and work better at it. I have to forgive myself for just not being or doing all that I could have been. I sold myself short. I sold myself short to a point that I just really never ever got it right. And I have to learn now that I have to control my negative self-talk because ever since I've been here talking, I have been exposing myself to getting it right. And I have to, for everything that I have, I sit back and say that I have to forgive myself. I have to start learning to sit back and say the things that I am proud of, because I have to start learning to shift the blame to stay in action. Each time that I pull back a little piece of me, I find myself, when I go home, At very first, I was in a dark place of going, oh my gosh, am I really doing this? Am I really going to say this? But now I can really sit back and say, I'm getting it out there. I'm working on it. I'm going to be better. I'm going to do better. I want my children to sit back and say, wow, mom, you are forgiving yourself. We forgave you, but now you can start learning to forgive yourself. Because I'm not going to lie, I haven't. And even though I'm speaking it in this moment, I am going to consciously start making myself wake up to the reality of saying, I forgive myself. Because there is compassion inside of, I guess, inside of holding ownership to my BS. There is compassion. I can walk up to a stranger and give them compassion before I can give compassion to myself. So I have to learn now to parent my behavior and forgive myself. I'm not a bad person. I made some bad choices, but I'm not a bad person. And I'm going to find myself doing better. And I really, really thank everyone who allow my voice to go into their heads, because there may be some things that you don't realize that when you get up each and every day of your routine that you may need to forgive yourself. Take a moment, forgive yourself, look at yourself and say, you did the best you could with the information you had at that time. And tomorrow you are going to be a better person for it, and you're going to do differently. And even if you don't do differently, tell yourself, you know something? It's okay. It's okay. It's not the fact of falling, it's the fact of not getting up, just staying in that self-wallow of pity. I'm not going to do that any longer. I am going to dust myself off, and I'm going to get the hell up, and I am going to do better. I implore each and every one of you who sit back and listen, tell yourself, you know something? We are going to do better. Invest in me by coming here and listening. I'm investing in you, because leave comments. I want to hear comments. Even if you feel like something may be a tad bit negative, it may be a learning experience for me. It's only negative if you sit back and say, hey, your hair was part sideways or something. Duh. That's fine. But if you sit back and you have engaged in real conversation, even if it's something that you may have felt that I've wronged you in the past, and I'm never quite giving an explanation or an apology, please leave a comment. Let's work this out together. I love you guys, and there's nothing wrong with being flawed, because some of the most imperfect things are the most beautiful things, but it started out as a flaw. So invest in me, invest in you. We're going to work this out. Change is on the horizon. God bless.